I remember my bully ended up grabbing me by my pants and ended up pulling my pants down. And I am not joking. My bully ended up saying, oh my goodness, wait, it's actually pretty big. And I stood there frozen. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba and welcome back to a super embarrassing story. So today's story all starts off back when I was in high school, and this was my grade 9 year. Now, grade 9 is when I kind of just started really getting into the realm of meeting women and basically trying to pull girls. But obviously, with all good goals that come to life, there's always got to be a hater or a bully that tries to stop you. And one thing I will say, well, I had a bully back when I was in high school, and let's just say she was not the best. Yes, I know it's weird to say that a guy had a bully that was a girl, but at the same time, I'm not gonna lie to you, back when I was in grade 9, this bully that I had was in grade 11, and she, I guess in some way, had a lot more influence in the school than I did. But I remember there was one time specifically where I was basically just walking down the school hallway, and there was a girl in my grade 9 year that I actually kind of liked. I didn't really have like a full-on crush on her, but I thought she was attractive. I thought this one day when I was walking down the school hallway that since I saw her by her locker, I could just walk up to her and kind of just strike a conversation. But out of nowhere, as I start walking towards her direction, I ended up getting pushed on the ground by a girl. I remember she ended up pushing me saying, oh my goodness, another grade 9 student that doesn't know how to walk. Watch where you're going. Understand? Yeah. Sorry about that, is what I said. And I remember the girl that I was attracted to ended up seeing this whole thing happen, and I got so embarrassed to walk up to her afterwards that I ended up walking away. Obviously, at that moment, I didn't really know why this girl was so mean to me that I ended up bumping into, or technically she pushed me, but honestly, I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. Until I remember later on that same school day, out of nowhere, I remember I was in the lineup for the school cafeteria, and I just wanted to get the mac and cheese that they were serving because the mac and cheese at the school was so good. And I remember as I was lining up for it, out of nowhere, I ended up seeing that there was one left. So me reaching up to grab it, I remember this girl that was like in grade 11 that was a bully to me ended up walking up to me and basically pushing me to the side and grabbing the last mac and cheese. She looked at me and said, sorry, did you want this? Well, too bad, it's the last one. And she ended up walking away, not even paying for the food. I remember I was about to walk away, but then afterward, the lady that was at the cashier for the school cafeteria ended up making me have to pay for her food. So in a way, she basically took my lunch money. I remember at that point, I was so upset, and I ended up basically walking up to her because obviously I'm not gonna let some girl just pick on me like that. And when I walked up to her and said, hey, you owe me $5 for the food. Excuse me? You're telling me to pay you? Are you serious? I am a woman of this generation, and you're asking me to give you money? Why? Is it because you're a guy? At that point, I remember a lot of people in the cafeteria started looking, and I felt embarrassed. At that moment, I remember I decided to just walk away and basically not interact with her again because, well, I don't know, when a lot of eyes are on you, it gets really nerve-wracking. But I remember basically I ended up running out of there, and I ended up just hanging out with some of my friends that were in my science class at the time. And I started just talking to them and basically like telling them about this girl that was such a bully to me. I remember one of my friends ended up saying, bro, I would do something, but I'm not gonna lie to you, like, she's a girl, bro. Like, you can't hit girls. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And at that point, I didn't know why this girl hated me so much. Like, it just never understood or made sense to me until I remember Friday came around. And Friday, I remember we were doing this thing called the Terry Fox run, where basically you're supposed to like run for like a certain amount of time around the school to show respect for the person that ran across Canada. Kind of insane, by the way. Like, what kind of guy wants to run across Canada? Like, there's so many places you could run across. Like, you could run across the Pacific Ocean, you could run across the Great Wall of China. Like, why Canada specifically? I really have no idea why, but basically I remember that same day everyone got to school, and for our third period we all had to meet up in the school and basically get ready to do the run. I remember I ended up seeing a lot of students like basically compiled into this gym, and there was like so many of us, and basically like everyone got like really close together where I'm not gonna lie to you, it felt really hard to breathe. And one thing led to another. I remember as I'm like trying to like get through the wave of people, I ended up seeing the girl that was my bully. I remember I tried avoiding her, but then out of nowhere she ended up walking up to me, and she ended up basically like kind of like bumping into me on purpose, saying, oh, sorry, I didn't see you there, little guy. What's your problem? Excuse me? Like, no, what is your problem with me? Like, I don't understand. Nothing. Quit being such a small eggplant, you weirdo. And she ended up walking away. At this point, I was super annoyed, and I just didn't understand why. And I guess from all that anger that was built up in me, I decided to waste it by basically doing this marathon and basically just let my anger out by running. I remember when we all met in front of the school, we all basically lined up and we all started running. And when we started running, I am not joking, I ran my heart out. The amount of anger that this girl put me through, I am not joking, just really upset me. And I started sprinting. I started running as fast as I could. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I caught a lot of people's attention. Like, for example, my teachers kept cheering me on. It got to a point where actually the school photographer ended up taking a photo of me to put into the yearbook later on that year. The amount of effort I did doing that run really amazed a lot of people, until I remember when it got towards the end of the run and everyone at the school was just finishing the whole event. Basically, I remember a lot of people started walking up to me, teachers started walking up to me, basically telling me that I did a good job. But then afterwards, the one person I did not want to see ended up walking up to me. It was the girl that was my bully. She walked up to me and said, "Hey, I saw you running out there. Not bad for a little guy." "Thanks," is what I told her. And then afterwards, I remember I basically decided to just walk away from her because I did not want to build up any more anger from this girl. But then afterwards, she ends up walking beside me and says, "Hey, don't walk away from me. I get you have a small eggplant, but you don't gotta be weird. My eggplant isn't small. Stop talking about me," is what I said back. And what this girl ended up doing was she ended up grabbing my pants and pulling it down out of nowhere in front of everyone. She pulled it down, and I remember she looked at me and said, "OMG, wait a second. It's actually really big. Bubba, you packing?" And at that moment, I was so embarrassed and I did not know what to say, to the point where I ended up pulling up my pants and I actually sprinted with all the anger that I got built up again back to the school, and I ended up hiding in the school locker room. As I was in the locker room, I just basically sat down in there, and I'm not gonna lie, I actually started tearing up a bit, until out of nowhere, I want to say 10 minutes later, of just me sitting on my phone after a while, just trying to distract myself from what just happened and avoid anyone that saw what happened. I ended up hearing the door for the gym locker room open. I basically heard it open, and out of nowhere, I ended up seeing that this grade 11 girl that was literally the biggest bully I ever had to deal with, probably, ended up walking up to me saying, "Hey, Bubba, I just want to say, like, I'm sorry if I really, like, picked on you. I'm sorry. Like, I just thought you were, like, one of those, like, weird, like, wannabe cool grade 9 kids. Like, I really didn't mean any of it. Are you just saying that because the teacher told you to say that?" is what I said afterwards. And then she sat down beside me, and, well, she actually ended up making out with me. My bully ended up making out with me out of nowhere. And I'm not gonna lie to you, one thing led to another. She ended up telling me in my ear. So, like, I was wondering, can I see it again? And, well, I'm not gonna say anything else other than, yeah, me and her, we ended up doing the devil's tango in the school locker room. Kind of crazy, but at the same time, hey, what can I say? I guess I had the ultimate Riz. No, it wasn't Riz. In reality, it was actually just a really embarrassing experience. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I think everyone has, like, a high school bully in some sorts. Like, I know back when I was in high school, I had myself in high school bully, and it was not fun. And before anyone says anything, bullying comes in any way, shape, or form. Like, I know there's a lot of cyberbullying nowadays, since, you know, everyone has access to the internet. Like, for God's sakes, I can picture a 9-year-old literally telling me that I'm never gonna be good at a video game and bully me in any way, shape, or form. But this was back when I was in high school, and honestly, like, when I was in high school, I'm not gonna lie, I looked like this. So you guys are gonna be ready for the story. It's gonna be insane, and just get ready for this. And on top of that, make sure you guys join the Discord and Twitch. You know, I stream almost every day, and I like hanging out with you guys. Seriously, it makes me get to know you guys more, and basically gets our community closer together. Now, anyways, let's get straight into this story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy story. So this story starts back, like I said, back in high school. You see, back in high school, remember, I look like this. So honestly, I wasn't really, let's just say I was wound repellent. That's probably the best way to really put it in this standpoint. And I remember it was like one of my first weeks of high school, and I'm not gonna lie, I did not know anything about the school. I wasn't cool in any way. I didn't know many people, and I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't considered, I guess, normal. But I remember one day specifically, there was a day where my father actually gifted me an Angry Birds t-shirt. Now, if you guys don't know what Angry Birds is, it was basically a game where it's like a bunch of birds flying down, being all angry and stuff, and fighting pigs. And let's just say my father gave me a t-shirt that was with my favorite Angry Bird. And that was, of course, the red one, because he's the main character. Honestly, if you don't like the main characters in movies, then obviously you're not gonna like the thing in general. Or in games, actually. Funny enough. But going on, I remember when I got that t-shirt, I instantly wanted to wear it. I remember I wore it to sleep, and I wore it the next day going to school. So obviously, I wore a wrinkled shirt. My advice, don't do that, especially in high school. It's kind of weird. But going on, though, I remember I was wearing it at school that day, and I was just walking around the hallway. Obviously, some of my friends thought it was cool, but in reality, let's be real here, it was an Angry Birds t-shirt. Like, yeah, maybe back in 2016, it would maybe be somewhat cool, but realistically, no, this was not the time and age for it. Going on, though, I remember me and my friend Justin were walking down the hallway, and we were just, you know, going through the hallway, going to our next class and doing the average thing. And then this big dude, I think he was like around like 6'5", walked up to me. And reminder, I was like 5'4" at this time. I was a really short kid. To be honest, I didn't hit my growth spurt until like grade 10, grade 11-ish. So that didn't help me at all. But going on, I remember he walked up to me, and I remember looking up kind of scared in a sense, because let's be real here, I wasn't really a fighter at the time. And he looked at me and said, "Oh, your shirt looks like garbage. You look like a total loser." And in my head, obviously, I was kind of like sad because, you know, someone's making fun of my Angry Birds t-shirt, bro. Like, what are you doing? And then after that, I saw that his hot girlfriend came up beside him and stuff. And yeah, he had a girlfriend and everything. Whoop-de-doo. He was cooler than me at the time. And at the time, the only thing I could actually do was run away. So that's what I did. I ran away. And funny enough, he started following me and I kind of got freaked out. So I remember I ended up hiding into a classroom. Teacher pulled me in, blah, blah, blah. That's it. Bully walked away. And you guys are probably thinking, okay, when does the whole actual thing happen that's in the title of this video? Me actually getting stuck in the locker. Well, you see, the thing is, you guys know how much I love that Angry Birds t-shirt. I probably mentioned that in the beginning of this video. And the thing about that Angry Birds t-shirt is that I wore it for 3 days damn straight. Yeah, I didn't wash it, nothing. I literally slept in it, woke up in it, and went to school with it. That shirt literally became like my skin. A damn bright red Angry Birds t-shirt. Now, you guys can laugh as much as you want. Honestly, at the time, I guess I got really close to it and connected to it. But going on, and on the 3rd day of me wearing that Angry Birds t-shirt, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, it did stink. But not only did it stink, I remember on that 3rd day of me wearing the shirt, I went into class and it was my 3rd class in. And my high school bully was in my class at the time. I remember him looking at me and started laughing, saying, "Oh, dude, that shirt's gonna stink, loser." And obviously he was right. The shirt did stink, but I still loved it and I wore it. And I remember looking at him saying, "I don't care. I like my shirt." And I sat down. Yeah, not the best way to confront your bullies, especially when they're right about something. But going on, I remember after class that day, I walked to my locker to go pull out some books for my next class because obviously I had science. And when I had science and I took out my books, I remember the high school bully was right behind me. He was literally sniffing me from behind and saying, "Oh, I was right. Your shirt smells like butt." And then he instantly pushed me into the locker and locked it on me. Yes, he literally pushed me in a locker. Somehow, I think this was illegal, but honestly, he ended up doing it anyway. He pushed me in there and literally locked the door on me, and I was stuck. I was stuck in my own damn locker. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, when a stinky t-shirt is in a locker for a long time, it starts to smell. When he locked the locker and walked away, I remember I was stuck in there and I was panicking. I didn't know what to do at the moment. I was kind of just freaking out thinking, okay, do I break the locker? And then I tried slamming into the locker. Obviously, it didn't break, and yeah, it didn't work out. And going on, I was stuck in there for, I want to say, almost maybe 2 hours at most. To be honest, I kind of got to the point where I pulled out my phone hoping I had some sort of data and started watching some movies, funny enough. And to this day, I actually do remember that movie, and it was the Lego movie. Yeah, don't laugh. I know it's weird, but I liked Lego games at the time. What can I say? Anyways, I remember hearing the bell ring after the final class was over, and I saw everyone walking down the hallway. When I saw people walking down the hallway through the slits of my locker, I remember slamming on my locker like there was no tomorrow. My movie was done. The locker was getting stinky. And honestly, I didn't want to be in there anymore. Like, I just literally couldn't handle it. I didn't know what I was doing, so I just kept slamming and slamming and slamming until someone finally came up to my locker. But sadly, the person who came up to my locker was not the person I wanted to show up to my locker, funny enough. Now, you guys are probably thinking, "Oh, what do you mean? Like, you're literally about to get out. Like, why are you being weird about it?" Well, you see, the person that walked up to my locker was my high school crush. Yes, my literal crush. She walked up to my locker and she said, "Bubba, are you in there?" At first, I didn't want to say anything and just pretend it never happened because I recognized her voice right on the dot. But then I started really thinking to myself, do you really want to get saved from your high school crush? So I ended up saying, "Yeah, I'm kind of stuck in the locker. Can you like maybe like help me out and get a teacher?" Trying to sound all cool as if, you know, I was cool. And then the girl said, "Who did this to you? Like, why are you in there in the first place?" At first I said science project, but then I realized that doesn't make any sense. Like, why would I try to suffocate myself in a damn locker? So I ended up saying, I kind of just ended up getting trapped in here, and someone locked the locker thinking it was for safety reasons. Yeah, I don't know. To be honest, I was nervous. I didn't know what to really say. And to be honest, I didn't want to tell my high school crush that I was getting bullied in school, because what kind of kid gets bullied in school? At least that's what I thought at the time. Going on though, I remember I was, you know, kind of freaking out, and she went to go get a teacher. In my mind, I was thinking, okay, how am I going to explain this to a damn teacher? Because obviously it's not going to go easy for anyone. The teacher came and she tried to unlock my locker. I told her my combination, and when the locker opened, I can just tell both my teacher and my high school crush had the most biggest whiff of smelling my stinky Angry Birds t-shirt. Like, I'm not joking. If this wasn't Minecraft, you could see the Minecraft particles of the stinky air coming out. Like, it was that bad. I remember them looking away and then looking back into the locker thinking, what were you doing in the locker? And then my teacher actually did end up asking me, Bubba, why are we in the locker? At first, I didn't really say anything and I kind of just kept quiet. But then I saw my high school bully kind of just in the background looking at me and kind of just laughing and pointing at me. And I literally just pointed back at him saying, he did it to me. He did this. As if I was, you know, in a courtroom acting all cool. And then everyone looked at him. And after that, he ended up yelling, "Oh, you're such a snitch, Bubba." And he ran. He literally ran out of the school. And it was after school anyway, so teachers can't really do anything about it yet. But honestly, after that day, I remember I got my clothes in my bag, and I actually ended up having an extra shirt that I usually changed for gym class that day. I went to the nearest bathroom, changed my shirt into just a simple black one, and I walked out. But when I walked out, I remember as I was walking down the hallway, my high school crush came up behind me. She put her hand on my shoulder and she said, "Hey, can I talk to you for a minute?" At first, I was kind of just like, oh, great. Like, she's gonna put a pity party on me. But then she looked at me and said, "Hey, like, you know, I'm not gonna lie. Like, being bullied in school sucks. But honestly, I think you're pretty cool. And honestly, I like Angry Birds too." In my mind, I thought this was absolutely BS. There's no way this girl actually plays Angry Birds. I know every bird, including the black bomber bird, and he's epic. I didn't say that because obviously that's cringy. But obviously, I guess, you know, we started walking down the hallway and she started talking about how she used to play Angry Birds when she was younger, like me. And from there on, we ended up having a somewhat of a cool connection. Now, obviously, the high school bully did end up getting in trouble. I think he got like suspended for a couple days. But at the end of the day, honestly, the lesson behind this whole storyline is if you get bullied, stand up to your bullies and don't be afraid to be honest about it. Seriously, if someone's picking on you, you have full rights to pick on them back and handle things your way. Or you can actually go seek help. Honestly, seeking help also is a good idea, but honestly, don't be afraid to stand up for your own things. Okay, so one thing that I've noticed is that YouTube boxing has actually gotten like really big. Like, don't get me wrong, I saw the first fights of when like KSI and like Logan Paul were like such a big deal. But now seeing that KSI is officially fighting people like Tommy Temper for some reason, like really like face Temper out of all people who could box. I don't know, honestly, I think it's gone so downhill. And that leads me to the question, if I had to box someone, and I mean literally any YouTuber, who would you think I would box? I was thinking about doing Austin Luna, or maybe I would even box Scrubs. I don't know, I'll literally box anyone. I'm gonna be brutally honest. Because like, don't get me wrong, being in the ring is exciting for me, and I think it's pretty cool. And this story is about how I actually got into the ring one time with my high school bully. And trust me, this story does get intense, so make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let's get straight into the story. All right, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another insane story. So this story starts back, actually, funny enough, I want to say in my grade 11 year. Now, in grade 11, I was already really known throughout the school for being with a lot of different girls and stuff, and don't get me wrong, I was like a major player and always doing the devil's tango. But one thing I never realized as I was doing all these things is that a lot of guys would envy me. And by envy, I mean be jealous of me. Now, at first, I didn't really care why, nor did I really want to bother, because either way, I still had the boys that were like my close friends that understood me and well enough to know that I'm not that kind of person to really care for the girls I've been with. But for some reason, there was one guy in my school who would always pick on me. But not only pick on me, but pick on a lot of different other people. Now, don't get me wrong, this guy in no way was he like charming or was he attractive or nothing like that whatsoever. But one thing I can say was that a lot of women would turn him down, and a lot of the women that turned him down have actually done the devil's tango with me. Anyways, I remember one day I was sitting in the cafeteria, just kind of chilling, being on my own, and I was just kind of just writing a paper that I had to do for English class. And out of nowhere, the guy was literally coming into the cafeteria, the bully that, well, no one really liked. And I remember he was just kind of walking around the cafeteria, and I found it really odd. But then I remember a girl ended up running into the cafeteria and running into him saying, "Oh, hey, I got your message. You want to talk to me? Like, what's going on?" And as I was overhearing their conversation, because they were literally like right behind me, I remember this guy that like no one liked in my school literally said, "Oh, like, I was just wondering, like, do you want to like maybe like go out sometime?" As I was hearing this, I was really like kind of like weirded out, but at the same time almost kind of laughing, because I don't know, I found it funny. Just, I don't know, it was just a funny moment. Like, don't you guys laugh when like you hear something like really awkward come out of someone else's mouth? I know I do. So basically, when I heard that, I was kind of like giggling, and then out of nowhere, I remember seeing this girl. She looked at me, and then she looked back at the guy and said, "Oh, I'm sorry. It's just like, trust me, it's not you, it's me. Like, I just don't think I'm ready for a relationship yet." And when a girl says this, I'm saying this right now, it is the most most BS thing that any girl could say. Like, no joke. When a girl would say that, I'm saying this right now, the problem isn't her. It's definitely you. So to all the guys that's been told, "Oh, like, it's nothing with you, it's me." No, just know it is actually you. Like, figure out your stuff, bro. But basically, I remember hearing that, and I literally couldn't hold anymore, and I literally got up and left the cafeteria. I didn't want to be mean and literally laugh right in front of him, so I decided to be nice and left the cafeteria and started laughing when I was going down the hallway. But as I was walking down the hallway, I remember out of nowhere, the girl that was literally just asked out came up beside me and said, "Oh, hey, Bubba, like, what are you doing?" I remember I was just walking with her, and I'm like, "Oh, nothing, you know, just chilling, just hanging out and stuff. What about you?" And me and her, we started walking together to her next class. I remember as we were walking, though, this guy ended up going through the outside cafeteria doors and entering in the school where we just walked to. And when we entered in, he literally saw me and her literally standing together and talking. Now, the girl's back was facing him, so obviously the girl didn't didn't notice he was there. And this girl, for some reason, had the gall, and I mean the literal gall, to literally ask me out right in front of him. No joke. She was like, oh, like, hey, I was just wondering, like, you're really cute, and like, I'm not really doing anything this Saturday. Do you want to like maybe go out sometime? I remember I looked at the girl and I looked at the guy behind him, which is like the bully that literally just asked her out. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be for real with you. I think I'm busy that day. You know, I'm just chilling. And then this guy was so infumed, like literally in flames. Like, I'm not joking. He literally looked like the character from Inside Out, the red character with like the red flames coming out of him. Yeah, he literally looked just like that. Mad at me, dude. Like, he was so mad to the point where he decided to come into our conversation, pop up behind the girl and say, oh, okay, I get it now. So you're gonna ask him out, but you're not gonna go out with me even though I asked you. What kind of woman are you? What does this guy have that I don't? And right as he says that, he ends up pushing me up against the lockers. Now, at this point, I'm not gonna lie. I was in grade 11. I ain't no wuss at this time and age. So I remember I literally stood up against him. I'm like, hey, what do you mean? What's wrong with me, bro? And then afterwards, we start kind of like, you know, pushing each other in the hallway. And then a teacher comes out of the classroom, says, hey, boys, this is not the setting for a fight. Seriously, take it to the office. So me and this dude, we end up going to the office, and, you know, we had a talking to, blah, 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 all that office stuff where the principal really never knows what's going on. And then afterwards, me and this guy, we ended up walking away and going our separate ways. Now, usually I would hope the story would end here, but sadly it didn't. Because I remember one time my buddy saw me and he was like, yo, bro, like, I'm taking this new boxing gym, like, course. Do you want to, like, come with me? I heard you, like, kind of experienced in boxing. Which, since I did, like, boxing in, like, middle school, and this was, like, just for a bit, and that's a story for a different time. But, you know, boxing in middle school, I had, like, little experience, but at the same time, I was still a kid, so I never really, like, got back into it. I don't know. I just prefer video games instead. But when he invited me, I remember this was a good friend of mine, and I decided to try it out. So I remember in grade 11, we ended up going to this boxing gym. Now, this boxing gym was, like, really, like, run down. Like, it was, like, one of those ones that you'd see, like, Rocky Balboa go into, like, in, like, the movies. It was just a basic rundown boxing gym. And I won't lie, it was pretty cool. I remember me and my buddy were just practicing sparring, and, you know, we were punching the bag and doing the same old usual things that boxers usually do when they train. And then out of nowhere, I'm not joking when I say this, out of nowhere, this guy that literally was basically a bully at my school walked into the boxing gym. And when he saw me, I'm not joking when I say this, he literally drops his duffel bag that he was carrying with his boxing gloves in it and walks up to me saying, oh, that's good, I found you here, little bum. And he ended up pushing me on the ground. I remember I looked at him like, dude, you need to calm down. Like, seriously, this is not gonna get you anywhere. Like, what do you want to do, huh? What are you gonna do, huh? And basically started, like, you know, yelling at him somewhat in the boxing gym. And then out of nowhere, these two guys ended up coming up behind us both, like these two really big guys, like that were like really built, and kind of just started pulling us back and like basically making sure that we don't actually hurt each other with our bare knuckle fists. And then afterward, basically, we ended up getting separated apart, and the guys at the boxing gym were talking to us and saying that if you guys want to fight each other, there's only one place to fight, and that's in the ring. So I remember basically me and him, we signed it up for the ring, and basically we were going to do an actual boxing fight, like an actual boxing match. But obviously we had to schedule the ring and everything, so we ended up scheduling it for Saturday. Now, the day I went to the boxing gym was on Wednesday, and basically throughout the 2 days of me going to school and going to the boxing gym to practice for the fight, everyone in the school started finding out about it. Girls at my school started finding out, and a lot of my homies at school ended up figuring out what was going on, and basically all wanted to go. So it got to the point where I want to say over 50 people in my school, and I'm not gonna lie, I think 30 of them were actually chicks and 20 of them were guys that were good friends of mine, literally ended up showing up on Saturday to the boxing gym to watch me beat this guy. We all ended up going to the boxing gym. We ended up basically, you know, getting ready and stuff, and I started practicing on my side of the ring while he was practicing on his side of the ring. We were sparring for a bit, you know, practicing with our partners, and then afterwards we got ready and we sat down, we got ready for boxing. Now, I'm not gonna lie, we only used like, I think 6-pound gloves. We didn't use like any actual like heavyweight gloves that were like, you know, usually 10-pound gloves that most boxing people use in like the actual rings. We're using basic gloves. We had helmets on, obviously, because we were not really planning on knocking someone out. I personally like my face, you know, I like to keep my face for YouTube. And basically me and him, we ended up basically going to our sides, prepping up, talking to our guys, and then afterwards we sat down, we got ready. The announcer came on stage and basically said, all right, in this corner we have Arash Baba Muini, and in this corner we have, well, I'm not gonna say his name because, you know, the story is about him and I don't want any legal trouble. So yeah, going on. Basically from there, the bell ended up ringing. We ended up going up against each other. We started fighting. I ended up punching him, he was punching me, you know, the basic same old that you usually see in the boxing ring. But then afterwards, this guy has the audacity, and I mean the audacity, to punch me in the back of the head. And when he punched me in the back of the head, don't get me wrong, it hurt, but it was a very not legal move, meaning that he was not allowed to punch me in the back of the head. It is like a basic boxing rule you're not allowed to do. But obviously I didn't complain about it. I just moved on from it and said, hey, you want to fight like that? We can do that. So basically from there, I remember this guy was a bit taller than me, by the way. I was only like 5'7" at the time, I think. And basically this guy was like, I want to say almost 6 foot. So one thing I really had to do was that since he had more of a reach on me, I ended up punching his liver a lot. And when you hit someone in the stomach that is really really taller than you, it hurts a lot, especially when you hit the liver area. At least that's what you learn when you're doing basic fighting training. And then from there, basically, one thing led to another. I ended up punching his liver. His face ended up going down, and that's when I uppercutted him. I, no joke, uppercutted the guy, and basically, I remember he ended up going on the ground. He was on the ground, but I guess he didn't really understand boxing rules because he ended up staying on the ground longer than 10 seconds. At this point, I remember the bell rang, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I actually just won. Everyone started freaking out. Everyone started, like, you know, yelling, congratulations, yay. And don't get me wrong, it felt good, but as he was laying on the ground crying, I basically saw in his eyes that he was really upset when he saw the girl basically cheering for me that he asked out the other day. And at that point, I remember I basically helped him get up, and I dabbed him up and said, bro, good fight. And then afterwards, he kind of just ended up being a good friend of mine. And to this day, we're still friends. Well, somewhat. I don't know. I don't really talk to him much anymore, but hey, what can I say? It was a good fight, and I ended up getting friends out of it. Anyways, guys, that is basically it for today's story. Make sure to do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like I always say, just follow for more embarrassing stories.